so I have worked in it most of my life. One day in a job I was in, it was slow, so the manager asked me to check the firewall logs for anything dodgy. Pretty soon I find indications of a female staff member accessing some racy content of the adult nature. This staff member had a reputation for blaming her slow productivity on her computer / network / mousy CT, so she was given no quarter. I go up to the large office, where she is surrounded by many other staff members, but her monitors are facing a wall and only she can see them. I politely ask to speak to her in private for a moment in a meeting room. Her response: "No, I don't have time, I'm too busy." Again I quietly said it would be in her best interest to have this conversation discreetly. Her look: "Stop wasting my time and say what you need to say." I pause, clear my throat, and say loud and clear, "Okay, the ad manager has asked that you stop accessing bondage porn sites on your work computer." There's a moment of stunned silence, where the staff member turned scarlet and everyone looked at her, including her manager. Me: "Okay, see you later." And I turned and left the office. I work in a casual fine dining restaurant in a downtown area. Prices aren't crazy but high enough that we don't get a super young crowd. I would say average age of our dinner crowd is 30 to 60, although it varies more on the weekend. I only include this information so you understand why I didn't initially ask for identification, even though you should always check. Thursday night a table of 4 comes in for early dinner to Karens and their daughters. Excellent. I'm ready for them to split entrees and tip me 15%. Not the worst type of table, if we are being honest, but nonetheless. They order a pitcher of sangria and I tell them I'll be right back with that for them, to which Mama Karen says to me, "You really aren't going to check these girls' IDs? Her birthday was just last month. Aren't you supposed to check anyone who looks under 40? She is correct. Of course that I should have asked for identification, even though they girls were with their mothers, and I was being lazy by assuming they were of age, since their moms did not stop them from ordering drinks. I agree with her and tell her that I actually am supposed to check all IDs regardless of age, and proceed to look at all 4 of the ladies' IDs. Unfortunately for Mama Karen, her birthday was a few days previously, and her ID had expired. In the state of Michigan it is illegal to serve alcohol to anyone with an expired ID regardless of age, so I had to deny Mama Karen a glass for the sangria, while her daughter and friend shared a pitcher. I didn't really have malicious intentions, however, it felt good that Karen's antics backfired on her. So I've worked in a small barber shop for a year and 3 months now. When I was hired I was not informed of the previous working conditions I was to be filling in for. My boss / shop owner, F62, neglected to inform me that her previous staff had some issues. A schizophrenic, a gold-digging lesbian who called everyone baby, and a former mayor who was beat half to death for sleeping with another man's wife. She also had this horrendous tendency of complaining about everything at work. Some days it was her trans grandkid. Other days it was how her boyfriend won't propose, but when he did she just wasn't good at commitment. There were racist comments flung about. Homophobic comments were frequent. You get the picture. Some days, however, she was extremely laid back and tolerable. I weathered through the rough patches of slow days and her bad attitudes. Attempted to discuss her issues in healthy ways, so she wouldn't share them with clients. I even opened and closed the shop and covered for her when she decided to take random vacations. Eventually things began to settle, until about a year into working there, she became sporadic and impulsive. Much more than usual, to say the least. She would fly into bouts of anger and throw tantrums about clients for no reason. She decided to break it off with her boyfriend for not building her a lake house. She hired a new barber despite us not needing one. She began dodging haircuts she didn't like, and more. Yet, the final straw that broke the horse's back was definitely when she tried to sell the shop out from under us without telling us. The issue here is that she was telling clients, but not her employees. The new barber was freaking out. Clients had begun leaving. This was an issue I couldn't overlook. So as shop manager I took it upon myself to finally confront her when we were alone in the shop. I asked what her plans were and that we just needed to know for communication's sake. At least so we could plan appropriately. With which I was only told, "Don't worry, I have a plan. You guys can still work here." That wasn't an answer for me though. So I responded with alright, as long as you have a plan and can communicate it with us then I'm fine with that. Later that night she texted me the following. We will no longer be discussing my business. If I mention it to my customers, that's my business. When it has to do with you, I will let you know in plenty of time. Please keep your opinions to yourself. I'm not mad. This is just simply my business and I would appreciate it if we kept it that way. If you don't like the way I run my business, and if I get on your nerves so bad, you should not be working here. From this day forward, I will do things my way, without any input. Thanks. So in short I told her thanks for an answer and I'll see her in the morning. The next morning I opened the shop as usual, and didn't say a single thing to her for the entire day. Halfway through the new girl came up and told me that my boss said I had been kissing her butt all morning and I was giving her the silent treatment. My boss was acting shady because she knew I was up to something. So she left early that day in order to prevent a confrontation. I helped the new girl finish the day out. Then I packed all of my stuff in my car and left her a letter of resignation. I then texted her to say, I've left my letter of resignation on your register. I appreciate the opportunity to work and gain clients. From now on I'll be doing things my way without any input. Good luck in whatever you do, and please do not contact me. Since then I've been offered jobs by 3 different shops, and have had clients from her shop contact me saying my boss doesn't understand why I left, and has shut the shop down randomly. The new girl said my boss was in total shock over me leaving. This is my husband's story. Happened today. My husband, Dirk, works as a marine technician, boat mechanic, for a pretty large shop. They pay him hourly, but do track his build hours for proficiency, and he gets bonuses, or reprimanded based on those numbers. He has been told repeatedly not to do any work without a signed work order, because they won't get paid properly if he doesn't. Unfortunately, his parts guy, Kevin, doesn't fill in the work orders correctly most of the time and Dirk has to ask him to fix things before he can get started, which means lost time, which means lost proficiency. Today he got a work order that said, see if trim tabs work. Now, Dirk knows this is supposed to be a diagnosis, but he didn't get time added to his proficiency, 1 hour, to do the job. So, he went to the boat, pushed the trim tab switch, noted that it didn't work, then turned the work order in. Naturally, Kevin was not happy and this conversation followed. Kevin, so, did you look into the trim tabs? Dirk, yep, they don't work. Kevin, well, what do you think is wrong with them? Dirk, I don't know, didn't look into it. Kevin, well, what do you think? Dirk, I don't know, does the customer want to pay for diagnosis? Am I getting time for that? Kevin, well, I guess let me call the customer. Kevin was not happy, but like damn dude, how hard would it have been to tell the guy there was a diagnostic fee up front? I have an adoring cat named Minnie, and like most people owned by cats, I try to ensure that Minnie has everything she will ever need. One of said things is a scratching post, so she doesn't tear up the carpet in our apartment. Unfortunately, the one she has now has been scratched down to the wood. My father, who is a notorious cheapskate, decided upon seeing the poor condition of said post that he can just cover the scratching post with more carpet. When I tried to argue that it would be much less hassle / cheaper to get her a new scratching post, he said I'm not wasting money on something she's just going to tear up when I can just fix it. Well, today, my father decided today would be the day we fix the scratching post. So we went to the hardware store and starting looking for carpets, staple guns, glue and the like, and I was beginning to realize I was going to be spending my Sunday working on something that I could just buy, when I raised my objections yet again. My father, unwittingly, set up his own trap. Unless you can find me something cheaper, we are going with my plan. I looked at my brother, Kevin, who is just as annoyed as I'm at my father's insistence of being boneheaded stubborn, and opened the calculator app on my phone. He got onto finding scratching posts at PetSmart. I tallied up all the prices of the stuff we needed, while my brother searched for what Minnie needed. Just as we were about to head to checkout, I stopped our father. Me, hey, Dad, you have $45.72, not counting tax. Father, yeah, I've got enough. Were you tallying up everything? Me, yep. Look at Kevin. So do you have a good option? Kevin, yep. Shows phone. We can get this one for $25.99, not counting tax. At this point, my father went white. Are you sure that's the one you want? Me, yep, that's the one. After all, I'm only trying to save time and money for you. As our father put things away and slunk off to the car, Kevin and I high-fived each other. So Minnie has her brand new scratching post and our father is quietly eating crow at having been outsmarted by his 2 kids. Later edit. Okay, I do owe some explanations. My father, in addition to being a cheapskate, is a bit of an arrogant jerk who doesn't like it whenever he's proven wrong and likes to show off how smart he is. Also, this wasn't a chance for us to do something fun together because it would have been us doing the work and him supervising and then getting mad whenever something didn't go according to plan, even if he doesn't do a good enough job explaining it. He also has a really bad habit of buying things that you really don't need. Seriously, we have 6 or 7 screwdrivers that we've used maybe once or twice in the 6 years we've owned them. We also own 2 full-size toolkits, which he bought because the second one had the tool he needed. Don't ask me why he didn't just buy the tool, because I don't know. He just showed up with the extra toolkit and didn't take it back with him. We have very limited storage space in our apartment, so it's a big pain whenever he just leaves stuff behind that we use maybe once or twice ever. And the worst part is that he knows. As for my cat, and why didn't we just reupholster the scratching post / use sisal / wood / etc. The scratching post is over 3 years old and the wood is looking pretty bad. I'm intending on buying a new one tomorrow, and carpet is the only thing she'll scratch. She hates sisal and wood, and won't touch either of them. Better that than us replacing the whole carpet in our apartment. First of all, I'm sorry for my grammar mistakes. English is the 4th language I'll learn, and I'm using a phone. Also, as this happens in a workplace run by the military, I'll try to change terms so it's more similar to a normal company. I thought this was for pro revenge, but giving it some thought, it's probably more adequate to this sub. This is my first post, so any advice is appreciated. Now that this story is just coming to an end, I want to take it off my chest and share it with you all. It'll start with some context. Please bear with it, since I think it is needed to get all the gist. I was born in another country than the one I'm living now, and where the story starts. My parents divorced when I was very young, and it was my mum who raised me alone without my father's support, neither economical nor parental, since I didn't have contact with him after 20+ years, and that time was brief regarding an inheritance heading my way from my grandpa, though that's another story. I grew up as an introvert, but I had many good friends around my childhood, and during some time I was problematic for my mom. I played too much games and neglected my studies, something that drove her mad for quite a few years when I was a teen. After wasting many years on some big issues, I made a big decision. I'll join the military, and since then my bond with my mother improved a lot. You will see after why this is important, as she plays a big role in this story. I joined the military as a young soldier on a country where military service is not mandatory. I chose the Air Force, and after some exams and training, I arrived at my new unit as a paratrooper and aircraft mechanic. I loved my work. I was able to travel my country and the world, learn many things, and get to know the best friends I've ever had, and day-to-day life was fun, and even when it was hard, I had the best people around to laugh, even when you shouldn't be able, because of the circumstances. I don't want to get much deep in what was my work in my unit, but I'll say I had a confidentiality clearance and worked doing maintenance, deployments, and escort jobs. Now with the story. It's hard to explain the chain of command in my unit, but I'll try my best. We were a small team. There was me, 3 coworkers, a supervisor that also had other tasks, and the manager. In my work environment, usually I would report to my supervisor, low-ranking officer, that we will call Brian, and he would report to Mike, a high-ranking officer that commanded my section, who's the manager of that place, and also one of the initial creators of this department. This department was figuratively Mike's baby. There is also another department that we worked on a daily basis with, as they also did maintenance, but on electronics, and we would share the same buildings, offices, cars etc. This department would also respond to Mike, and was at his direct command. Now with the rest of the people involved in this story. Brian was direct, really good at his work and strict men. The personification of army middle-aged men. The only flaw he would had it's that the things had to be done in his way, being for good or for worst, what would lead sometimes to a lot of unnecessary workload that didn't make any sense and ultimately had to be redone afterwards. Brian ran that place smoothly and was the backbone of all that had to be done, since we were mostly young people that would run like headless chickens without him. It did happen when he wasn't there. He knew a lot of things no one of us did, and if he didn't, he knew who to search. After I arrived, he took me under his wing, and my work ethic has took form thanks to having him as an example. I had and still have a good relationship with almost all of my coworkers back then. Sopala, I'm not there anymore. Some of us really get along, and we would go every weekend to drink, and we would have lunch, dinner, coffee and do trips sometimes. Going through hard times together did create strong bonds. For this story I will name only two people, David and Eric. David was a simple guy. I didn't have much a relationship with him, since we didn't click, and he was higher ranked than me. He sometimes pushed his work on others, but was an okay guy, not unpleasant to work with. Sometimes he credited others' work as his when reporting to another boss, but here we really don't care much about that, and no one gave a second thought about his wording when reporting for something done, as we don't lose not win anything by saying so. Eric is one of my buddies. I can't count how many times I slept on his couch and we have a blast together. He's important in this story because he's the one that uncovers a scary truth happening on my back in the future. Now into the real thing. Sorry for the long background. It was Friday after work. I took a 2 hours train to go home to check on my mum and my grandma just for a day, since next day on Saturday a friend is doing dinner at her home, and then we are going to some nightclubs. I spend the day with her, but she's a little sick, so we don't do much. I've been going back home almost every week and having a great time with my mom for the last years. Next day goes as planned, and Sunday I'm hanging out with a girl I met the night before, a friend of a friend that was invited to the dinner. Then I get a call from a voice I don't recognize, something about my mom being sick and that I had to go back home fast. I ask for an explanation and I don't receive any, so I just hang the phone. I get another call immediately. This time is my grandma. Your mom is dead. Come back. I won't delve much into what happened after, but I cried myself out while driving to the station to take the first train there was. While I was in the train I tried to call Brian, but he didn't take the phone, and after some tries I ended up talking with David, telling him what happened and that I won't be at work tomorrow Monday. Now that all has been told, there a need for a time skip. 1 month after I'm back at work, the funeral has been done, but the paperwork is still in his baby stages. People who had to dealt with this kind of paperwork regarding inheritance, taxes, payments, bureaucracy know what I'm talking about. So in preparation for all that task and get some needed rest, I tell Brian I want to leave from work, as it is in the law I have the right to ask and get it. He just asks me to please wait till things get better, since we lack personnel and a big operation is undergoing in a month. Right now it's just me and another one besides him, as recently another buddy had been granted a transfer to another unit. I agree, but I make sure to tell him I'll have to take days off to do paperwork in another city. He says there is no problem since I still have all my days for this year and they will not give me trouble for that. So I ask for my leave and it gets trough. My leave will start in 3 months from now. A couple weeks later Brian leaves the country and David is assigned as our temporary manager. This is the moment things turn south. You probably guessed where this is going on. There is just me and David working right now. Rarely we get some help as we have a lot of work to do, and not just in our location, but around the world. We are used to work overtime and without personnel, so it's not a problem for anyone. The problem starts when I ask for a day off. I had an appointment to sign some legal documents and retrieve others from the state, and I asked David about it. He says this week is not a good one and next week we can try to make it happen. Okay. Next week I asked David about having a day off. He tells me he's busy and to tell him tomorrow. Next day the same. And into the next day I repeat to him, I need a day off. And then he goes off berating me for some work I'm supposedly not doing well, storming out. I'm shocked. I'm just asking for a day that they have to give me by law. Fast forward, after more than a month I haven't done any paperwork, and when I ask for a permit I'm just getting responses towards delaying the permit to the end of the week to see if there is going to be work on Friday or not. Since a while I can't sleep, and I'm just unable to cope with all that's going on right now during my sleep or free time, though I still have a strong front and I try to act if I was just fine. There is one day that I can't stand it anymore, since my deadlines for taxes and inheritance are getting really close. When someone dies in my country there is a time for when the inheritor is able to pay taxes and present paperwork to the state to claim property. So I just get an appointment with the needed parties and say to David I'm taking this day off. I've been waiting for months now and I can't delay it anymore. He agrees and tell me to give him the permit tomorrow to sign it. And tomorrow is, I have the permit to be accepted for next week, just for a couple days, Friday and Monday. Guess what? I couldn't find David. Next day. He's too busy, tomorrow he will sign it. Now it's Thursday in the morning of the other week, and I'm standing towards David with the permit on one hand towards him and start again. Me, can you sign my permit? It's for tomorrow and Monday as we agreed upon. He takes it, reads a bit and takes it to Mike's office. He tells me Mike has denied the permit and he can't do nothing. There is a big operation coming next week on Wednesday and they need me here. Now believe me, I'm a chill person, but I was mad. Hate was clearly coming through my eyes. But I said okay and just left. Remember, this is the military. Even when you're being fed you have to be careful and cover your back. Now I understand something was going on. I don't know what it is exactly, but something is up. I started to talk with all my coworkers and trying to poke info about what's going on. I do some calls and at some point I cross paths with Mike in the office. He starts to talk me about why he can't give me the permit, and so I tell him what's going on. He's confrontational and says I have to do what I have to do. Just bear with it or leave. This is the military. I then repeat that I've been asking for this for a lot of time already, and it's my right to take a permit if I have an official appointment, and if there is not an order on paper with the proper justification as to why I couldn't take this days off in my hand by the end of the day I'll not be here tomorrow. He says we will talk in a few hours and leaves. I inquired a lot of things that day. Some coworkers told me stories that this thing is not the first time it happened before. There has been some people having to put up to even worse crap than this. David is well known for giving his job to other unqualified people, and well, that even ended in injuries, complaints, bribes and suing. Mike has done some nasty things to other people, but he's always been unscathed of any consequences. But those are other stories. At the end of the day I've been given both Friday and Monday with some words saying how generous Mike is, and a warning about speaking directly to Mike by David. David also tells me that I'm risking to have detention and an official amnestation. Also that I will have to hand over justification of my appointments next week in Mike's desk, and that thanks to me, he will have to work this Sunday instead of me. He planned to give me some work that had to be done on Sunday that doesn't belong to me either, and cancel a family trip he had planned weeks before. Oh, the irony. So now it's Monday morning, and I wake up at 8 AM to some messages from David and he's mad, hysterical. I get paragraph after paragraph of crap from him. He says I left a battery starter stranded on the road and found something out of place at the workshop. He doesn't find some stuff, and he is fuming. He says we will talk tomorrow, and that I have to be prepared for consequences this time. At this point I'm not even mad, I'm exhausted. I have so much issues right now that my psyche can't handle this guy's BS anymore. I just want to start my work leave, get over this, and get out of there. I didn't tell you, but during my leave I'm doing some exams to be promoted in the army. I've been studying hard, and when I have more time I will study harder. This exam period is well known, since every year in my unit many other takes this exams, get promoted and go back to study/train in the academy, never coming back again. It's relatively easy if you have the requirements and if you prepare with some months beforehand. So there everyone assumes that if you take part on the promotion exam you pass, and they are right. So I get back to work next day and I'm being berated over something I don't even know about, and I'm being told my attitude is bad and I need to work harder and put work in much higher priority. I just don't understand what's happening. I don't see myself as lazy. Every other coworker would agree I put everything on the line and am dedicated. David ends our first meeting with, "We will talk later. I'll discuss this with Mike." I'm somewhat know in the back of my mind that something is not right. I talk around with people and they console me a little, trash talk about Mike and David, and tell me not to worry much and get out of here as fast as I can. Here comes Eric in my story, my friend I introduced before. He takes me to a quiet place and tells me has overheard David and Mike talking about me on the office and how he listened them talking about stopping my chance this year to promote in the army. I think to myself for a few moments and thank him. Okay, I know their cards now. I get a huge breath of air as I start to make a plan in my head. I talk with a few people and call a friend whose father is a lawyer that has won some big cases in military law, even ruining some big shots career in this same base before. She gives me his number and I get an appointment this afternoon. So comes the end of the morning and David takes me to a side and tells me that I will be given a detention soon for 3 days or more. Then he starts rambling without me talking even one bit about how it will be good to me and how I can get things through and a year more working here will go well with me and after I can become lieutenant or whatever anyway. He rambled how it's usual for this unit to give detention for this little things, even though in other units it would not happen, since we are really strict. Gave some examples of other people getting detention, and that this will make me stronger. I hear him, but I'm only listening to my heart's translation. I want you to work your butt off here to work as 3 people for 1 more year. If you're not here I can't slack off anymore, and I will continue to mess with you anytime I have a chance. He thinks he has made himself clear and pats me on the back and leaves. After the meeting with my lawyer I went to the doctor, told what's happening at work, and left with a medical leave that same day for 2 weeks that I will end before it expires just the day before my work leave starts. Next day I went to work in day-to-day clothes and told David what's going on. He didn't expect it. He was mute for a while and went to talk to Mike. Mike came to talk to me and being in a cynical tone and a smug face asked why I wasn't in my uniform. Told him I wasn't capable of work right now and I'll be seeing the base doctor to pass on the medical certificate I already have. He's mad, but he contains himself and leaves talking to himself. I talk with my coworkers, gossip a little here and there, and leave to my house to take my stuff and go to my old home in another city. Fast forward a week and a couple days I go back to my workplace the day my work leave starts and say goodbye to my friends and close coworkers. Mike calls me again to his office and berates me for a while. I'll try to transcribe his discourse as accurate as possible. I don't talk much and is mostly a one-sided charade. Mike, you are in the army. What do you expect? What are you going to do now on? You've been on medical leave for more than a week freeloading from the state. I'm here to pay for your nice car. I have a sports car with a big engine because I'm a car guy and he asked me to test drive it months before and I didn't let him since he's also a drunk yard at the workplace and coincidentally your medical leave ends when your work leave starts, right? There is so much work to do and you are leaving all your companions stranded. When you come back we will have a serious talk, and if you expect a good evaluation from me, you must be dreaming after this. But well, if you don't like it, you could always leave and seek another job. If you think you're too good to work here, just don't get in the way. In my country getting a job right now is really hard for young people. I leave that place and a boulder is lifted from my shoulders. Now I have 3 months to organize all the things I had to do since my mother's funeral. I even cried a little in the car since I hadn't had time to cope with the loss of her and I still need healing. But he told me right, I could just leave. I did everything I had to do during this time. My mother, even though she raised me alone, worked very hard, never remarried or anything like that. She just worked hard and was really valued at her company. She was making almost 6 figures at the peak of her career. This is a lot in my country. I had some good savings as I did some lucky but good business decisions years prior, plus I inherited some property and also had other income. So anyway, I was set for life. While on leave, I chose a flight academy and started training to become an airline pilot. Now my lawyer prepared all the paperwork for me to leave the army as Mike recommended me, and as the day approached for the end of my leave, I went there again, dressed in a day-to-day life way. Let me tell you, the face Mike and David had when they saw me without uniform was priceless. They weren't able to understand why I wasn't going to work. It was as if they had a seizure, because the day prior Mike told me to sign my negative evaluation next day at what I had agreed upon. They surely had some plans built up against me that I just made useless. Seems they were out for blood, as I was told by my buddies that overheard them talking. They thrash talked me a lot, and David was found checking on my personal belonging in the office, trying to find something we need that no one know what was for or what it was. Just guess. I don't even know. I laughed at that. I gave the papers my lawyer prepared to Mike, and believe me when I say this, when he heard the word lawyer he went apeshit on his mind, pale on his face. He stared at me for a few seconds and didn't say anything else aside one remark that if I wanted to leave the army by law I can't be on leave, and that I'll have to come to work in 15 days to present his papers, but in working condition and in uniform. I told him that I will discuss that with my lawyer, and we shook hands. Me, Mike, army grade, you told me my choices, and you were right. I have to leave. Guess what? He made that back quote law up. So if I did as I was told and went to work in 15 days, he would use the military law to punish me with some reason regarding my attitude towards superiors and some bullshit he could made up, forcing me to work or to even face jail time. With my lawyer in tow, I just ignored his demand and presented all the things I needed to the proper parties involved. Defense Ministry from the government, not Mike. Never ever heard of Mike or David directly again from then on, nor they tried to contact me after I didn't show up 15 days after. And now you are thinking, what about the consequences? Well, technically till a couple months I'm still assigned to their unit. You remember how low personnel we were and how I told you I did almost everything there, right? I knew my department wasn't going to work if Brian or I wasn't there, and they needed a SAP to fill my position. But to ask for someone to come and fill my position, they have to wait till I get officially out of the system, and that's about 1 to 2 months after I cease to be in the army, something that has yet to happen. So David has been having to work a lot lately, and the problems keep piling up because he's messing everything, and the work can't be done with the irresponsible and untrained personnel left. That was something I knew as much as David knew, but Mike was going to learn now. The things went so south after me leaving that the department is going to cease to exist and be absorbed by another one in the near future because his poor performance. This department was created originally by Mike, and he isn't able to stop the problems from going to the surface anymore. My case has been the talk around my unit a lot, and I've taken the opportunity to make a file with the problems of my department and some underhanded things they've been doing all this years, filled and handled it over to his boss when I was asked by him about my reasons. Years working there had made me really knowledgeable about some really blatantly illegal and dangerous things that has been going on at his command, and to his knowledge, Mike's position will cease to exist, and he will have to relocate his family to another base in another part of the country, where his house will not be paid by the state as they are scarce, and the rule "first come first serve" is in place. Knowing I have a big part on his current predicament doesn't make me sleep better at night. I feel it's just a bit of karma paying him back. Well, Mike, I could just leave if I don't like to be here, right? And that is what I just did. Now I'm about to take my first solo flight as a pilot in command, and I look back at this last year and feel like it has been a decade, but I can't be happier where I'm now in life. If you enjoyed the stories, slap the like and subscribe button for more of them, and don't forget to support the original writers with an upvote. Links are in the description. Peace out, and catch you tomorrow.